At this time, we're pleased to have Colonel Jaak, Tarien, the director of the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence in Estonia. Colonel Tarien previously served as the commander of the Estonian Air Force. He is a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and has master's degrees from the Air Command and Staff College and the United States National Defense University. Please join me in welcoming Colonel Tarien.
It is an absolute honor and a privilege for the CCDCOE to partner with Army Cyber Institute for the third time to field this wonderful conference, CCDCOE US. The CCDCOE out of Tallinn, Estonia is an international military organization. It's a think tank, now with 21 member nations, United States being one of them, and we have already 11 nations waiting to join our party. So we have grown outside of NATO. We have several member nations that are outside of NATO boundaries as well. 2018 is a special year for the center. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary. We're celebrating the establishment of the center. We celebrate accreditation by the NATO Allied Command Transformation. 10 years in human history is a negligible blink of an eye. But when you overlay it into cyber domain, then, hey, we've been around since before gunpowder was invented. So, to reflect on those last 10 years, and also to look forward, this spring we made a short video. For those who were in Tallinn for the springtime CCDCOE, this is a rerun, but as a good PR specialist would always tell you, there is never good enough of a good message. So let's spend those 90 seconds and watch that together, please.
In 2004, a new NATO ally proposed to create a cyber defense hub. In 2007, the same nation was hit by the first ever politically motivated cyber attacks. Surprisingly, they made the embarrassing incident public, and finally the world listened. Estonia showed that cyber threats are real, and we need to approach them in cooperation. A year later, Estonia with 6 other nations launched the NATO-accredited Cyber Defense Hub in Tallinn. Today, the centre has civilian and military experts from 21 like-minded nations. It does research, training and exercises in 4 focus areas. The highlights are the Tallinn Manual, the Lawyers and Policy Advisors Survival Guide to the Cyber Galaxy, Locked Shields, a unique international live-fire exercise starring cyber defenders, and CCDCOE, the annual must-attend for cyber gurus. Where to next? Red-teaming exercise Cross Swords is growing. New study areas are on the rise: cyber deterrence, attribution, and artificial intelligence. However, one thing stays the same. The key actors in cyber defense are the people.
So as you saw, we could be celebrating more than 10 years. Estonia proposed 2004 to the entire NATO alliance that we should stand up this Center of Excellence in Cyber Defense. Do you know what was the response by the NATO allies? Precisely, deafening silence. You all know it. And some mumbling that, well, cyber defense, our focus is in Afghanistan, in the desert warfare. Cyber defense it's kind of a civilian business, should be left for EU and others like that. And Estonia, do you think you have competence to run this center? Until 2007 rolled around, and Estonia was the first nation to be target of politically motivated cyber attacks. Estonian state leadership went to Brussels to NATO HQ and said, we're under attack. And the response was, well, the CNN doesn't show tanks or planes. Are you sure you're under attack? Yes, we are. The entire concept of cyber domain being used for a military or politically motivated attack, it was absent from the Allied thinking. It is there now. Cyber is now officially declared as a military domain by NATO. And right after 2007, nations recognized that, hey, Estonia, please, let's team together. Let's create this Center of Excellence. The first mission, or the biggest mission of the center, was to get the nations aware, the allied nations, the like-minded nations aware of the importance of cyber. And peculiarly, it's gone so well that in 2008, about 20-person team of 7 nations that has tripled now in size to 21 nations and 60 people, we've grown small. In 2008, the center was a big powerhouse in the military cyber thinking. Now, the larger nations like the United States has thousands, if not more than 10,000 in each service branch working on cyber. A small NATO nation called Estonia recently stood up a cyber command with over 300 people. Our center is small. How can we still be relevant? Yes, we can. The key is in the first C of our name, cooperation. We strive to be the champions of cooperation. We bring together the 21 member nations, not only military, but government, industry, academic, knowledge and expertise, fuse it into products that benefit all member nations and feed this knowledge back to the members. Our enemies in the cyber domain, they're not stuck behind what we call interagency cooperation. They have integrated really well cyber into what we know as a hybrid warfare, fused with the info ops, conventional kinetic warfare, non-conventional warfare. They've got it right. We need to cooperate amongst the like-minded nations in order to stand up to this kind of warfare. A good example of cooperation for CCDCOE is this conference. For the third time, together with the Army Cyber Institute, we're here together, putting on a world-class conference. I hope this conference also raises your appetite for more, so you book your trip to Tallinn for springtime. How do I characterize the two conferences? I have 2.5-year-old twin daughters at home, so I hear often, "Daddy, I want the same thing but different." CyCon is the same world-class conference as CyCon US, just in a different Estonian sauce. The organizing team has told me that this year the dinner party will be in a beach party style. I don't know what that means, but I have cut down on my pizza intake. I suggest you do the same and book your trip to Tallinn. I hope to see you there. That was the easy part. Now I need to introduce the next speaker, who's my boss for the last 6 years, 11 months and 9 days. And will be for the next 20 days until he will retire on the 5th of December after a long service in Estonian Defense Forces. If you get him talking in a smaller group than this, then maybe he will tell you about his teenage era when he grew up in a Soviet-occupied Estonia and was heavily engaged in clandestine activities against the Soviet state, activities which would, if caught, land the person in youth jail and ruin his and his family's future. In the early 90s, when Estonia got our independence, he was one of the first ones to join the Estonian Defense Forces. Back then, it meant that the enemy was in the country. The Soviet occupying troops were in the country. So joining the defense forces meant that you don't know whether the occupying troops will leave or they bring reinforcements. He served from platoon commander all the way to the commander of Estonian Defense Forces in the next 3 decades. In the last 7 years as a chief of defense, he has led a very successful defense reform, turning Estonian Defense Forces from what's known as a hollow force to a real fighting force, which would be really easy if there was a massive inflow of resources. However, in Estonia, there never is such thing as massive inflow of resources, so we've had to do it with what we've got. So to sum it up, I present you a man who has devoted his life to keep the boundary between tyranny and a free world right where it is today. So, General Terras, sir.